Hello, I'm Chanel, this is Spirited Stardust, and today I thought I'd split my book wrap-ups into two. So I've done this midweek and then I'll film at the end of the week. So I don't know how many books I've read total, but I'll put the number here once I edit it at the end of the week. But yeah, I thought I'd do a half-half so I'm not getting overwhelmed with all the books that I have to talk about in one go. I'm wearing my glasses today, but I can see that there's a bit of reflection with the ring, but we're just going to go with it today. So I'm going to start with the non-fic. We've got the Australian Women's Weekly Almost Vegetarian One Pot. Now I got this because I wanted my eldest daughter to maybe start cooking with me. I want to teach her some cooking skills. She's vegetarian. Both of my kids are on the spectrum, so they have a lot of sort of food aversions and they're quite picky with what they eat, and I'm hoping that by helping me cook the food, they're more likely just to even try it, because sometimes they won't, they'll just look at it and whatever it is, it's either the smell or the way it looks or the texture, they won't even try it. But I thought if they put the time in to cook it, they will. So we made this dish together, and my eldest daughter really liked it, which was fantastic, and she ate it all. My youngest daughter wouldn't touch the beans, she just had the avocado, and we served it with some corn chips. But so that sucked, but the eldest just devoured it, and I'm like, yes, win, that's a win. So with this Australian Women's Weekly, it's sort of like iconic in Australia. I remember in the 80s, they had like a birthday cake book. So all the kids would have like the same cakes. There was like, I think the most iconic one was this train cake. I'll see if I can find a photo of it. I'll probably put a photo of me as a kid with it. But we all had like some iteration of that train cake as a child. But yeah, Australian Women's Weekly, surprisingly, is pretty reliable. And I wanted one pot because I just wanted it to be easy and not too daunting for my daughter, and so far so good. So I'm looking forward to going through a few, although some of them are quite spice heavy. Like there are things like luxes and curries, and I'm just like, I don't think she's going to like those. She sometimes finds salt spicy, so we'll see how we go, but I'm hoping to expand her palette with the help of this cookbook. So that was great. I don't rate cookbooks though, because I feel like unless, I don't rate them now, but I feel like you'd have to cook every single recipe to get really like an idea of what you would rate it, and there are very few cookbooks that I've ever cooked every single recipe in, personally. So from now on, I'm not really going to rate cookbooks. Oh, sorry, I have IBS, so my gut's playing up. This is the Young Oracle Tarot, an initiation into Tarot's mystic wisdom by Sarah Ferguson and Anna Nevaeh. I'm going to show you some of the illustrations so you can have an idea of what it looks like. Oh, I had matcha this morning. I thought maybe I can tolerate matcha, but matcha does not agree with me. So this beautiful illustrations, and I was like so excited to look through it. I gave this 3 stars because it's very, very, very basic. It's mostly got the 3 stars because of the lovely illustrations, I'm going to be honest. It's not really, it's like if you just want a cursory glance, you just want to just dip a toe in, just have a little look, see what is tarot, but I don't want to be inundated with too much information, then this would be for you. But for someone who actually wants to learn tarot, this is not enough, it's not substantial enough, so bit disappointing, but for those who just want a quick, give me the 5-minute version, then that will be for you. So now we're going on to the fiction. I read 2 books so far this week. I've had a really good reading week. I thought I'd slow down, but I've been into reading, so I'm just going to go with it. Some weeks read more, some weeks read less. All right, so this was did not finish. This is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. Normally, I've liked her other stuff. I'll read the blurb. Lahore, Pakistan then. Misbah is a dreamer, a storyteller, newly married to Tufik in an arranged marriage. After their young life is shaken by tragedy, they come to the United States and open the Clouds Rest Inn motel, hoping for a new start. Juniper, California, now. Salahuddin and Noor are more than best friends. They are family. Growing up as outcasts in the small desert town of Juniper, California, they understand each other the way no one else does. Until the fight, which destroys their bond with the swift fury of a star exploding. Now Sal scrambles to run the family motel as his mother, Misbah's health fails, and his father loses himself to alcoholism. I can't remember if it's Nor or Noor. I'm just going to say Nor. Meanwhile, walks a harrowing tightrope, working at her wrathful uncle's liquor store while hiding the fact that she's applying to college so she can escape him and Juniper forever. When Sal's attempts to save the motel spiral out of control, he and Noor must ask themselves what friendship is worth, and what it takes to defeat the monsters in their past and the ones in their midst. So, she actually describes how to pronounce her name, but I've already forgotten. So I DNF'd it. I know I said I was going to read to 50%. I can't remember how much I read, but I read almost to 50%. It just wasn't for me. It's obviously trying to tackle some big themes with alcoholism and sort of obligations to family and responsibility and, unlived dreams and addiction and loss and grief. So there's a lot in there, but I don't know. So I didn't really like any of the characters. Probably Noor, goddamn, I wish I'd looked up how to pronounce her name before I started, was the most interesting. I didn't like Sal at all. I know it says all my rage, so he was quite rage-filled internally, and I just don't think I can read with a character with like constant, I don't know. He also had a lot of quirks. He treated Noor badly. He wasn't really that great to his current girlfriend either. I sort of just didn't like him. And I didn't like the husbands of the wives. I didn't like a lot of it. So I just didn't find it entertaining or fun. And it was because too, Sal and Noor are teenagers, like they are in that last year of school. And I don't know why I keep reading books about teenagers. I probably should stop. But this was like quite the rage. And I thought, I want to give it a go. I like Sava's other stuff. I think it's mostly fantasy. And I like the way she writes fantasy a lot more than this contemporary. I'm not a fan of contemporary to begin with, so I think that's also had it against it. But look, like I said, I'm dipping my toe into genres that I don't normally read, and I know that I'm going to find one I like. There's got to be contemporary out there that I think, that was fantastic. That was a great story. The characters were enveloping. They were interesting, intriguing. The pacing was great. The writing was beautiful. Like, I know that that's definitely going to be out there for me. I'm trying to figure out which angle has less glare with my glasses. But this just wasn't it for me. I just didn't, like I said, I didn't care. I'm like, I don't even care if Noor gets into university. I don't care, if Sal salvages the inn. I'm like, whatever. So I DNF'd that one. I had more things to say, but I've forgotten. That's the thing. I just, once I'm on to the next book and I've read the next book, that's what's in my mind. So, it's the mind fog, guys. It's a brain fog. One day, when I'm functioning at full capacity, I'll be a bit more articulate and retain information. So next we've got Book of Night by Holly Black. Even your shadow can be stolen. Charlie Hall has never found a lock she couldn't pick, a book she couldn't steal, or a bad decision she wouldn't make. She spent half her life working for glow-mist magicians who manipulate shadows to peer into locked rooms, strangle people in their beds, or worse. Glow-mist guard their secrets greedily, creating an underground economy of grimoires, and to rob their fellow magicians they need Charlie. Now she's trying to distance herself from past mistakes, but bartending at a local dive, she's still entirely too close to the corrupt underbelly of the Berkshires, not to mention that her sister Posy is desperate for magic, and that Charlie's shadowless and possibly soulless boyfriend Vince has been hiding things from her. When a terrible figure from her past returns, Charlie descends into a maelstrom of murder and lies. Determined to survive, she's up against a cast of doppelgangers, mercurial billionaires, glow-mists, and the people she loves best in the world, all trying to steal secrets that will give them a vast and terrible power. Now, I know a lot of people said they didn't like this. So I went into it with a very low expectation based on other people's opinions. And personally, I thought it was great. I liked Holly Black's other works, and I liked this one. I read it in one sitting. I just wanted to, it really caught my interest. I got caught up in the story, and I wanted to see how it ended. So, and I think I read it all the way right to the kids' bedtime. But we're going to bed in 5 more minutes, kids. Mommy's going to finish it today. So, Yeah, I liked it. I liked the writing. I liked the main character, Charlie. I thought she was great. She's like a realistic person in an unrealistic setting. Like, she seems like an everyday person, even though she's not an everyday person, if that makes sense. Like, she just seems real. So I liked her. There's no sense really of her family besides Posey that much. Like, you get flashbacks with her mother, but not much real day interaction with her mum. Her sister, same with her sister Posey. It's in the present day. It's more about her and her job, and then the mess she gets caught up in. Vince as her boyfriend, you don't really get much of a sense of him. He's sort of like, he's there but he's not there, if that makes sense. I'll talk about it more in the spoiler section. But like, I did buy their relationship, but yeah, he was a bit flat for me. And Posey was, typical younger sister. She's into, okay, there's one thing that really irked me. So her younger sister's into tarot. And okay, great, I love tarot, so I got excited when I read that. I'm like, yes, books that include one of my other hobbies. There's a character in this called the Hierophant, and she said, like, in the tarot deck, that's the magician. And I'm like, no. In the tarot deck, the Hierophant is the Hierophant, not the magician. So that bit just irks me. I'm like, it's not the magician. But then later on, they go on to say, like, the magician and the Hierophant as a separate tarot cards. But yeah, it's always interesting to see when authors like have people doing spreads for people and pulling like a card and being like, "Ooh, this means this in your relationship." You're like, that's interesting. We've all got our own interpretations of the tarot. There's no right and wrong interpretations, but saying the Hierophant is the magician card in the tarot, that's like, no, the Hierophant's a Hierophant card. So the Hierophant is a character in this, interesting character, but barely touched upon. So I would have liked to know more about the Hierophant. The bad person is, nuanced. It's not just straight up evil. So I can't, like I said, it's a bit twisty and turny, so I can't give everything away. But I liked the premise. I hate the word below mists. Every time I read it, I was like, I don't like reading that word. Like, couldn't you found another word for these things? So the shadow, this is a magic based on like shadows. It's a bit confusing, I'm going to admit, it's a bit confusing how it works and who can do it. Like, Posey, her sister, wants to have a magical shadow, and she's trying to like get a magical shadow by doing these things like splitting her tongue, so forking her tongue, because supposedly that's supposed to help you. Because having like a split tongue makes you use both sides of your hemisphere or something like that. I can't remember what they thought it did, but that didn't work for her. So like I said, the shadow thing was a little bit confusing, and you don't really get, sort of, her past is more like what her previous profession. Sorry, I just noticed that the bookmark I made for my partner has been torn to shreds by my cats. Thanks, babes. Is sort of alluded to. You don't really see her with those skills until the end, like very, very briefly. So it's just sort of like, oh, she's a badass, like, thief. But you don't really see that until right at the end. So I would have liked more about like her thieving in here, but it wasn't really about that. So yeah, I can't really talk a lot about it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was well written. Some of the characters were great. It's an intriguing premise, and yeah, like I said, I enjoyed myself with this. So I'm going to go in the spoiler section now because this is split up. So I'm sorry, guys. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'll talk about the spoilers in this when I film on Friday. I won't have the book then though, because I'm going to return it today. But, oh, can you also let me know if you prefer me holding up the physical books, or if you just prefer the picture that I put out for when I do my readers. I personally prefer just a picture up instead of someone waving a book around, but maybe some people like the physical books being hoisted up. But let me know which you would prefer, and I'll stick to that. But yeah, so I'll do the spoilers in the second part. I'll see you in the second part of this. Okay, so now we're going to the second half of the week of what I've read. So this, I've read 8 books, which I probably put at the start of the video. If I didn't put it, I've read 8 books this week. So that was 4 fiction, 4 non-fic. So I also tried a ebook. First I tried, because I had to assemble a whole bunch of cat trees, so I thought this would be great. So I tried fiction, but I could not keep track of who was talking. So that was just too frustrating for me, and I was like, no, I can't do fiction. There's too many characters. I'm not listening intently enough. So then I thought, let's go non-fiction. So I tried The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, A Counterintuitive Approach to Living a Good Life by Mark Manson. In this generation-defining self-help guide, a superstar blogger cuts through the crap to show us how to stop trying to be positive all the time so that we can truly become better, happier people. I listened to 15% of it, and then I was like, no, it's not for me. It was a very masculine sort of energy to it, point of view. It was just littered with fucks. Fuck. And it just got so repetitive and redundant and regurgitative. I was just like, I don't need to hear any more of it. I get the gist already, and I'd rather not subject my ears to any more of this book. So I DNF'd that at 15%. Would I listen to more audiobooks in the future? Yeah, I think I would listen to some non-fiction. I can't do fiction, cannot. But I also think it depends on the narrator's voice. If I don't like their voice, I can't listen to it. So I will play around with it in the future, listen to some more audiobooks that maybe I can't get a hold of as ebooks or as textbooks in the library. So that's that one. Then I've got another non-fiction here. This is a hefty tome. This is Love Signs, Unlock Your True Love Match by Linda Goodman. Can a Capricorn find love with a Sagittarius? Will a match between a Leo and a Pisces always end in heartbreak? Linda Goodman's Love Signs is a complete astrological guide to personal relationships, offering compelling insight and advice for every zodiac sign and the compatibility of every possible pairing. Reliably entertaining and informative, this book will help you to better understand your partner and your relationships. Obviously, you don't read the whole thing. You read the beginning and then you read your love matches with your sign. Oh, good Lord. I think I gave this like 2.75 stars. The writing is so clunky. And I likened it to molasses. It's just really thick to get through. It's just so convoluted. I'll read a bit, maybe. No, that's actually a nice bit of writing. Oh, no, I don't. I'm not prepared. But yeah, I just didn't. Leo Woman, Scorpio Man. Okay, the deep lagoon of a Scorpio man's inner nature will inevitably win out and dampen the flaming defense of the lioness in any serious conflict between them. He's a water sign, and water is the strongest of all the elements. Fire consumes, and what is left to conquer after the opposition has been consumed? But water drips away, drop after drop, penetrating the surface of even rock and granite in a precise pattern water chooses. Even a boulder tossed into the stream won't change a stream's course, but toss a blazing torch into the ocean. How long do the flames last? Of course, the size of the body can change the outcome. It was just like, I was just like, get to the point. Can you make it clearer for me to understand? It was too obtuse, and they would just throw in random poems and songs and stuff. So maybe if you want like really weird, non-direct writing, go ahead. But for me, just wanting to find out my compatibility with another astrological sign, I want clarity. I want real life examples in a direct way. I need to start making notes. I think that's what I'm going to do, guys. I'll make notes from now on, because there was just some passages that I was like, what, man? What you trying to say? Like, I don't understand. Just get to the point. I didn't really learn anything from this, to be honest. That I could have just Googled, at the moment, Leo and Scorpio. This was it was pointless for me. Like I said, I didn't learn anything out of it. I need to go on my knees. I can't sit in one position for too long. So yeah, this was not that great. Oh, it's that really thin paper. I hate the way it feels. It's almost like Bible paper. And I just don't like the way it feels. It just reminds me of my Bible days as well. So, no, I did not enjoy that. That was a bit of a letdown. I was so excited and then disappointed. But my disappointment was not to last when my hair's all wet. And I always do these videos after I've showered. I'm like, plan, woman. And I've just littered myself with 1,000 hairs after that. I'm going through a hashes flare-up and I'm losing all my hair. So fun times for moi. Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery by Brom. Oh, there's no blurb there. Blurb's on the inside. I've got to remember to open the book. So there we go. Connecticut, 1666. An ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him father, slayer, protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, demon, devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite the battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. If it is a devil you seek, then it is a devil you shall have. This terrifying tale of bewitchery features more than 24 of Brom's haunting paintings, fully immersing readers in this wild, unforgiving world. Speaking of paintings, I will show some to you. So this is Abatha. That is Abatha right there. And then we've got Forest and Creek, these two creatures. And Sky and Samson. And Mamunapet and Slewfoot. And then Zavich, the witch. Okay, so this was interesting. Look, I do have a hard time reading about books that focus heavily on eras or situations where women have basically just no rights. They are subject to the whims of the men. They are very easily accused of things like witchcraft if they dare to speak up. Like they pretty much cannot have any voice, and they just must do as they're told and be seen and not heard. So that sort of thing, especially sort of puritanical, so it had the religious aspect to it, which, like I said, it can be a bit triggering for me. I have to remember, like, this is just a story. It's not happening right now. You can chill. It's okay. So there was that element of like frustration to it, and I could feel Abatha's frustration so heavily, and just the need to just want to scream and speak out. It was so frustrating, especially in regards to her husband, who was a very lovely, gentle, meek, mild man, sweet. He obviously, as you know, she's a widow, so I'm not going to say how he dies, but he's in the book, and then he's not. But yeah, it was just frustrating. She is so determined though, and she's so brave, and she's so fierce, and she's just amazing. I absolutely loved Abatha's character. Obviously she gets into opposition with a few dickish men. Some come to her aid, which is great. There's some, examples of some good men in this. There's some other great female characters, but it is overall, don't expect good times. This is in like, it's dark, there's tragedy, there is injustice, so it is pretty full on. What else? Oh, it's like almost two POVs. So you get Abatha's. Sorry, I hate the way my hair looks at the moment. Just gotta leave it. You get Abatha's POV, which is great, but you also get Samson's POV, and I hated his chapters that were just all about him and the wild folk. I just could not care less. So those were not as entertaining for me, and I just wanted to like run through them as fast as I possibly could. That being said, there's obviously elements of magic in this witchery, trying to figure out who is Samson. He's trying to figure that out. Samson's trying to figure out who he is, and who is the devil, and who is good, and who is bad, and all that sort of razzmatazz. Yeah, I can't say more about it without spoiling it, but I did enjoy it. I can't remember what I rated it. I think it would have been like at least a 4.25 probably. I think it was a bit more than a 4. It was a 4.25, but because there was so much frustration and like I can't rate books highly that have me just like chomping at the bit. at the injustice and unfairness of it. So, yeah, it's not a blissful read, but it is entertaining, and I'll speak more about this in the spoiler section. And then, guys, I've got a 5-star. So this is The League of Gentlemen Witches by India Holton. Just when you thought it was safe to go back into the tea house, Miss Charlotte Pettifer belongs to a secret league of women skilled in the subtle arts. That is to say, although it must never be said, witchcraft. The Wiccan League strives to improve the world in small ways. Using magic, they tidy, correct, and manipulate according to the notions of what is proper, entirely unlike those reprobates in the Wisteria Society. When the long-lost amulet of Black Beryl is discovered, it is up to Charlotte, as the future leader of the League, to make sure the powerful talisman does not fall into the wrong hands. Therefore, it is most unfortunate when she crosses paths with Alex O'Reilly, a pirate who is no Mr. Darcy. With all the world scrambling after the amulet, Alex and Charlotte join forces to steal it together. If only they could keep their pickpocketing hands to themselves. If Alex is not careful, he might just steal something else, such as Charlotte's heart. Oh my god. I had such a good time with this. This was so good. I didn't just laugh out loud. I was chortling, I was guffawing. My kids kept looking at me like I'd gone mad. My daughter was like, what are you laughing at? The book. My love of the book. It made me burst out laughing. I burst. So good, so good. I absolutely loved it. It was, once again, I wish I'd tabbed some scenes in here. Oh, this made me laugh. So, she said, this is Charlotte. Why, therefore, her pulse should be racing now, and in places where one's heart was not located. She could not understand. That was really cute. And then there was this scene. It was a bit saucy. This is a bit saucy. Charlotte almost nodded in agreement, but caught herself in time. She turned to glare at him. I don't know what you're playing at. Playing at? He echoed, his voice all innocence despite the darkness in his eyes. He idly flipped the spyglass around his hand as he looked at her. But I can assure you I am not discomposed. The spyglass went still. His mouth slid into a smile that would have made a lesser woman blush. And I can assure you, Miss Pettifer, that if at some point I do choose to play with you, you'll end up thanking me profusely for how discomposed I make you feel. There was a little sauce. This was a bit spicy and not that spicy. It was saucy. So, they have amazing chemistry. This is like an enemies to lovers thing, and that's my favourite. I love it when they're at each other. There's respect. There's always respect with enemies to lovers, and that's, I think, what I like the most about it. Because, yeah, they're adversaries, and they don't, like, underestimate each other, but they vex each other. It's great. It makes for entertaining reading. So Charlotte is the witch, but in this time, this is something that frustrated me. So pirates are basically witches. There's male and female pirates, no discrimination there. And they use magic, and they get around in flying cottages and townhouses, and I thought that was the best. They just go into their house and off they go in the air instead of ships. They've got houses that fly. And they can wield their magic openly, but the witches, which are all women, cannot, because they will be tried for witchcraft and hanged and burned. And I'm like, how does that make sense, guys? So the pirates, there are also women pirates, they can pirate and use magic openly, and they're fine. They can't be brought to justice. But if a woman who's not a pirate but practices magic, that's a crime. So that was something that really irked me a bit. I didn't understand that at all. And the pirates are much more brogue and rude and brash and, carnal, and don't give a fuck about what anyone thinks of them. So they very much, live that way. And the witches, so you've got the Wisteria Society are the pirates, and the Wiccan League are the witches. They must be prim and proper. They must be ladylike. They must do they must follow etiquette. So, I just, like I said, I absolutely adored the dynamic between Charlotte and Alex. 10 out of 10. Loved it. I wish I had a bit more steam. I'm not going to lie. I do like a bit more adult scenes, but still, it was enough. It was enough for me. It was great. And there was enough, I don't say foreplay, but I don't like it if they just jump into bed together immediately. It doesn't do it for me. I have to have the build up. I have to have the tension. I have to have all of that simmering lust, you know, working its way into crescendo. I love that. So it has that element. I love the magic of this world, and the world building. It was really cool. It was a fun adventure chase, you know, getting up to hijinks where they unfortunately must work together to both of their dismay, but not really. Like, and he has a butler, and his butler's great, and there's some really fun, colourful characters in this, so that's also great when all the characters are just really lively and enjoyable. And that's what I was going to say. Oh, but they're also, the witches are not meant, it's like very much frowned upon. Do not associate with a pirate. There's a feud, eons long feud between the two societies. They were once one society and then they split. The pirates love to read erotica novels. So like, you go guys. I'm like, would I be a witch or I'd be a pirate? I think I'd be a pirate in this one. So, but both the witches are also, they're not pious. They although they do contribute to orphanages, it's their favourite charity, they call themselves wealth redistributors. They like to redistribute wealth in whatever way they think is appropriate, which sometimes means their own pockets. So I just loved it. It's got that, the heroine is massively obsessed with Jane Austen novels and is constantly, you know, applying like what she's read in books. She's a virgin. She hasn't been with anybody. She's 21. Thank God. You know, I can't stand it when they're teenagers. When I first read, though, the depiction of Alex, and it's got the earring, and it's got the dark lined eyes, and the boots, and the billowing silk blouse, I couldn't help. Hey, my Sylvie. But picture Damiano David from Måneskin, because that's who I'm currently like, he's caught my eye at the moment. So I just pictured them as Alex, and then as Charlotte, I pictured Rachel McAdams, because I saw more of a sweetness. She's a strawberry blonde or a redhead, really. So sometimes I do that. I don't know if you guys do that. My brain tries to like match the characters' descriptions with someone I have seen in real life, so I can get more of that facial expressions and all that in my head. I don't always tend to just make up a completely unknown face. Sometimes I do. It just depends on the story. Sometimes I'm really able to picture what the author has described, and sometimes I'm not, so I just search for someone that's got similar features. And that's what I did with these two. But I loved it. It was so fun. It was so fun, and I'm really happy I picked it up. I just, like I said, went to my library and just looked at all the new releases, and I was like, yes, this sounds interesting. It's a cute little sweet little cover. And yeah, I'm a sucker for a bit of like that period magic. I like the prim and properness, but juxtaposed with the more, you know, human carnal desires. I like the mix of the two and the magic element. But yeah, this was really fun, and I'm going to go to the spoiler section now, so if you don't want to hear the spoilers, turn off. But that was a 5 out of 5. Highly recommend. Oh, it's such a fave. I'm going to check out all of the other authors' stories now. So we'll talk about Slewfoot. So this is hella dark, man. There's no happy ending in this. Oh my god. Abatha, as you might have realised, becomes the witch in the end after she is killed by the village for being a witch. So this is mostly about the antagonistic relationship between her and her late husband, and her late husband's brother Wallace. So Wallace is just a real bastard. Not great with his money. He's ended up in the you know, sorry, my cat's kneading right next to me, in debt, and he's decided to leverage his younger brother's farm to pay the debt. And at first the younger brother's going to go along with it. Like I said, he's very meek and mild, and he doesn't like to stand up to anyone, really. And Abatha's like, hell no, this is our farm. We own it. And he's like, not really, you're supposed to be paying, you haven't paid off your debt. So anyway, she was like, she's not going to stand for it. So she went to the ministers of the town, what are they called? The church dudes. I can't remember what their title was. And you know, it's very religious, so, like to the point where if you're late to church, you get beaten and left in the street for 4 days and nights with no food and water or shelter, and everyone is encouraged to hurl cowpats at you, which is atrocious. And Charlotte is just appalled and in like absolutely horrified at this treatment, and goes to help the man, and then the church guy's like, hey, by doing that, you're going against like God's will. How is he going to learn? You're not saving his soul by thinking that you're being kind to him. Oh God. So yeah, she's just like, she's always got to toe that line to make sure she doesn't end up in the stocks getting whipped and lashed for, you know, not keeping her tongue. But anyways, she manages to, she's a very intelligent woman, convince, you know, the church dudes to allow them to pay off the debt for the farm and by whatever time's end. And if they do, the farm is theirs, and Wallace has to leverage his own farm to pay his debtors back. So as you can imagine, Wallace is just absolutely like against this. Anyway, unfortunately, what's happened is Slewfoot, Samson, whatever you want to call him, is woken up in a pit. There's these little wild folk creatures. I don't really like them at all. They've brought Abatha's goat to him to drink its blood, and then they lure Abatha's husband to the pit, and he falls in and dies, and Slewfoot eats him. So Abatha is down now. Her husband, she has to do everything by herself. She has to grow the corn and pay the debt off all on her own. But she's determined to do it because Wallace is like, otherwise you can just be my slave. You can be indentured to us for 30 plus years, after which then you can be free, but you'll owe nothing. So she's like, no, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. I'm going to make this work. So she gets to working, and it sort of just swaps between her point of view and Slewfoot's. But I didn't like his chapters at all. So he's trying to figure out who he is. He's woken up and he doesn't know who he is, what his purpose is. The wild things are like, you're the slayer, the destroyer, they've got to kill all these people, all the usurpers to the land. So they're in his ear, sorry. But he just doesn't resonate with that. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want that to be who I am. Anyway, him and I've got cat hair all over my face now. Oh my God. And Abatha meet, and he can't bring himself to kill her. She sort of recognises him. She sort of thinks he's the devil, Slewfoot. Anyway, they end up striking up an unlikely friendship, and they help each other out, and he feels like, ask me for something, like she gives him biscuits. She makes him biscuits, and he's like, ask me for something in return for these biscuits, sort of like as an offering. And so she's like, help my corn grow, and then he's able to use his magic, and he's like, this is what I was meant to do. I'm meant to help people and work with nature and the earth. So she sort of makes offerings to him, and she's growing her farm, and everything's going beautifully. And then Wallace comes and he sees, and he tries to obviously intervene. He's like, if she makes that payment, I'm screwed. So he hires some of the previous natives to come and take her corn. There ends up being a shootout. They see Slewfoot, and they're like, oh, that's the devil. You know, that's whatever his name is. And then he's like, am I the devil? And there's all this stuff going on. Turns out he is the devil, or the horned one, or whatever you want to call him, Slewfoot. But it's supposed to be more like a nature god, so not completely evil. But anyway, so Wallace ends up, oh, my baby, oh, I love you so much. She's on my lap. They end up going to the town, and like I said, the pastor and his wife were lovely people. She helped their daughter heal by using her herbal remedies. And the pastor's wife said, you know, my mother used to be a cunning woman, and she always used the herbs and that to help people. So they were sort of trying to, you know, keep her safe. But when all of the town, all of a sudden, all the women that she'd given charms to before were startingly, when they sort of heard that she was going to be accused of witchcraft, wanted to denounce her. So like, oh, her charms are burning us. And they were like, she's a witch, she's evil, she fooled me and she lured me in to get these charms, and I wasn't of my sound mind. It was a raven. Another raven. So the whole village then just turned on her, and the pastor and his wife couldn't do anything to stop it. But then they were thrown under the bus too by their own daughter, who was like, oh, she came to heal me. Now what if the devil's in me? And they're like, what do you mean she came to heal you? So then the wife is accused of like aiding in the witchcraft, and then the pastor is like locked up in the stockades. A whole like shitfest. They go and they get Abatha. At this point, Slewfoot's been tricked by that other guy, Manum Huppet. I can't remember his name. You saw a picture of him. Who's tricked him into going into a long sleep. So the other guy can rule, and she's getting dragged into town to be tried for witchcraft. First they try the other woman. They cut out like all of her moles on her body because there's signs of, you know, possible witchcraft. So they cut them all out and they're like, all right, now you have to confess. And she's like, I'm innocent. Like, I'm not practicing witchcraft. So then they start like laying stones upon her, like stone after stone, rock after rock, until she can barely breathe. And she still refuses to confess because she's innocent. But then her daughter comes and is like, please, Mama, just confess. Please don't leave me alone. They've taken Daddy away. I don't want to be on my own. So the mother confesses. So they go to take her away. And then they've got the proof that they need to burn Abatha or hang her. They decide to hang her upside down until she dies. So they go hang her. And the wild folk try to like wake up Slewfoot so he can save Abatha. He ends up getting woken up. I don't really know if Abatha dies physically or it's just a metaphorical death. I'm a bit unsure about that. But he does get to her. He does cut her down. And he's like, do you want to be like me, you know, immortal sort of or whatever, like, and have your vengeance? And she's like, yeah, payback's a bitch. And it's about to be reaped this very night. So he sort of makes her into a witch, and they go through the village and just slaughter everybody that had turned against her. And it was great. I'm like, I was here for it. I'm like, yes, queen. So they obviously spare the pastor and his wife, but at that point, the wife has just lost her freaking mind. Like, she's just like, you are the devil and you've done this to me. And she's like ripping her skin apart, and I'm like, okay, woman's been through a lot, unfortunately. But yeah, they end up being a little duo, and you see them in the future. They're still doing the duo things. Still sometimes bringing good, sometimes bringing death. Life and death. So like, I wouldn't call it a happy ending, but you know, it was very entertaining. It was very full on, but I still really hated like Slewfoot's chapters. It's just so boring. But yeah, that was Slewfoot. And then we've got The League of Gentlewomen Witches. Yes. So love it. I love it. This was amazing. I loved, like I said, the relationship between Charlotte and Alex. I'm so happy this was a bit more of a happy ending. So there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of fraught scenes. Are they going to make it through? Are they not? Everyone was them against everybody else because they couldn't be together. It was so taboo. And they do find a way to be together. She ends up being, though, the head of the league, the Wiccan League. So she's like, how can I be the head of the Wiccan League and be with a pirate from the Wisteria Society? But then she's like, you know what? I'll make it work. But she's also willing to leave it all behind. She's like, I don't care. I just love being with him. They just bring out the best in each other. They accept each other. They both, he's had a lot of trauma, and she's just really understanding and healing for him. Because he's also received a lot of trauma at the hands of a witch. And like I said, through her, he sort of heals and goes through, that trauma, and has, then more positive associations with witches. And she helps him, and he brings out her daring and wicked side and her unladylike side and allows her to be her fullest potential. It's just lovely. It's a healthy, it's darling, it's reciprocal. The pleasure scenes are great. So I'm always worried with when one of them's a virgin. I'm like, oh, how's this going to go? But no, it was fantastic. It's how anyone would want their first time to be, personally. Alex is a great lover, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. And like I said, in the future I will make sure to start writing notes. There was just so many so many bits and pieces. Oh, and the chapters have I'll just try and find one. At the start of the chapter, there's a few, a few words that sort of sum up what's going to happen in the chapter. So if you don't want to be spoiled, then don't read the little words at the start of the chapter. But for instance, chapter 11, I'll read it because you won't remember by then. It says, only one bedroom. It's not that trope. Incorrect undressing. Manhandled. Charlotte wishes for some bedtime reading. Alex is unhygienic. Jane who? Third time lucky and mutual defeat. Now, that Alex is unhygienic is not what you think. It's nothing to do with his personal hygiene. It's just to do with some bedtime activities, and she's a bit like shocked at his sexuality and his desire for her. But I loved reading those at the start of each chapter. A lot of them made me laugh as well. I didn't mind getting a bit of a heads up of what the chapter might encapsulate. I like that. I'm like a spoiler person. I like sort of going in knowing what I'm going to get. But yeah, I just loved everything about it, and I can't wait. I'm going to check out more of the author's work. I'm hoping there's more, but this was just amazing, and it was such a blast. So that's everything that I read this week. I hope you're having a wicked morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And as always, stay wild, Star Child.